Hello, everyone. Welcome to It's My Vote, the 2024 Voter Engagement Campaign launch by AAUW and the AAUW Action Fund. My name is Robin Lucas. My pronouns are she, her. I'm the Grassroots Advocacy Manager at AAUW and the AAUW Action Fund. And tonight I'm joined by Gloria Blackwell, the CEO of AAUW, and Megan Cassell, the Senior Director of Policy and Member Advocacy. Real quick, before we get started tonight, we want to share a few notes. Please note that this webinar is being recorded and will be shared online afterwards. And as we go, you can direct any of your questions to the Q&A box at the bottom of your screen. We'll save most questions for the end, but I do encourage you to write them in as you think of them. AAUW also gratefully acknowledges the members of the Mooney Lychee Giving Circle for their generous support of our voter engagement work. With that said, I will hand it off to Gloria.
Thank you so much, Robin, and hello, everyone, and thank you all so much for joining us today as we meet here tonight, a day after Super Tuesday and a day before the State of the Union address. It could not be more clear how important the November elections are going to be, because the outcome will have a major impact on equity in education, women's economic security, and access to reproductive and civil rights for all women. And as women, we can and we will have a profound impact on the outcome of this election. In every presidential election since 1980, women have registered and turned out to vote in greater numbers than men. When women vote, we change the conversation. And while the number is still far too few, we have also seen a significant increase in the number of women in elected office. That's why I'm really excited that AAUW is renewing our voter engagement efforts in 2024 for this critical election season, because honestly, there's too much at stake. So tonight we'll share with you our plans for the year, and we invite you to make a similar commitment and join us in making our voices heard at the ballot box this November, because you can make a difference. Now I'm going to turn it back over to Robin and Megan to share those important plans for the months ahead. And I'm thanking all of you in advance for your participation and your efforts.
Thanks, Gloria. So Gloria mentioned that we'll be renewing our efforts on voter engagement this year. And what is voter engagement? AAUW members have been actively involved in voter education, voter registration, and voter turnout efforts for years. Collectively, we've had thousands of people registered to vote. We've had phone calls and postcards mailed to encourage people to get out and make their voice heard. And we've had so many voter education efforts, whether those be issue forums with partners, candidate forums, utilizing our tools and resources to share, get out information about how important the issues that we care about, equity in education, economic security, and civil rights, how important these are and how they are so much on the ballot this year. So since 1995, AAUW's conducted voter education efforts in nearly every state, and the campaign has been very successful. As Gloria mentioned, this year seems so critical for everybody to understand what's at stake and to get out there. So our goal here is this year really to continue increasing voter participation and in a nonpartisan way. How can we talk about the issues with one another and let people know the folks who are running for office, who shares those values? And that's what we want to do. So I'm losing my voice, and you've heard the importance, you know the importance of this election. So I'm going to turn it over to Robin to talk through, all right, what does this year look like for AAUW, and our invitation to you to join us.
Of course. Thanks, Megan. All right, we'll jump forward 2 slides. Sorry to skip over a great photo, y'all. Let's get into the meat of it tonight, though. So we're all here to talk about voter engagement. As Megan started to say, we have engaged for decades, and we engage through 3 general pathways. There's voter registration. Any voter's first step in getting involved in an election and exercising the right to vote is to register. So we do engage in voter registration. We also, where AAUW has our real home, is in voter education, offering the resources that we have offered, again, for decades to help folks make well-informed decisions. And then right leading up to the election is get out the vote. That is to mobilize voters to actually go vote. So I'll walk through those 3 things, but it starts with the voter engagement campaign as a whole. So here we've got our very excited to share new logo for It's My Vote voter engagement campaign. AAUW is dedicated to make sure that every woman is registered and has the information that we need to make informed decisions. And the campaign itself is broken out into different ways to engage in voter registration, education, and get out the vote. We will be providing a series of trainings this year that I'll talk about a little bit more, and all of the valuable resources that we have historically offered. But throughout the year, you can expect to have guides provided on how to sponsor or plan an issue forum or candidate forum in your community, different events that you can plan and engage in with folks in your area to get them excited, informed, and make a plan to vote. You can help gather volunteers to gather signatures for petitions on ballot measures in your area. There's a whole list of ways to engage and opportunities to engage your communities that we have planned out for the year and will support you in. But let's start with AAUW National is providing. On voter registration, for next slide, for voter registration, we are excited to announce that we are working this year with When We All Vote, which is an incredible organization focused on voter registration in the country. Through our partnership with them, we will have even more trainings to offer to AAUW members and advocates. They also are providing a portal that you can go and check your registration and help folks get registered. You can utilize that portal when hosting registration drives. They have really incredible events and ways to engage with your community, with high schools, with colleges, with other communities in your area. And they themselves are a very large and active community around the country for us to be joining forces with. For any voter registration drive, AAUW always has 4 key tips. Be prepared with links to your state's voter information and rules. Partner with coalition members, other like-minded organizations in the area. When you're engaging people at a voter registration drive, you want to keep your messaging personal and direct. And then 4, repeat it. Repetition is key in any voter engagement campaign, particularly when it comes to voter registration. Next slide, please. So, voter education. Again, I did say that this is where AAUW's home is. So I'm sure many, if not all of you, will recognize some of the photos here. These are our core resources that we provide every election year and really offer incredible and important information for voters to help them guide their decision and help make difficult decisions when it comes to what you're going to vote, who you're voting for. So with that, we've got the voter issue guide. You can expect that in the next month. That is our core document. It's a foundational information on the key issues that AAUW is going to focus on this year and that we encourage voters to focus on this election year. They are the nearest and dearest and most critical issues from AAUW's public policy priorities. This document offers background on those informations as well as key terms that are utilized in conversations around those issues. And my favorite bit is questions that you can pose to candidates on those issues, which again is what is most important when helping inform voters. The next bit is the head-to-head guide. So this is a blank document on either side, but you can utilize it in a specific race, and it has some of AAUW's key issues in the middle there. So it just helps you determine where candidates stand on our key issues. And speaking of where candidates stand on our key issues, if they are incumbent from Congress, our congressional voting record is an incredible document that will come out later this summer, early fall, identifying the actual voting record of members of Congress from the current term on how they voted on key AAUW legislation and supported or opposed, but where they where their standing was on our priorities. With our voter education, we do provide all of these resources in nonpartisan terms, and the templates and resources are offered through the AAUW Action Fund website. Like I said, they'll come out in April later this year, and you will be seeing them in your emails. We're very excited to be continuing the great tradition of offering these resources for voters. And to go along with those, we will offer issue webinars as well this year, just a sneak peek on that front. So next up, like I said earlier, this year we're focusing on capacity building training series. So our training series is here. We've got kind of a snapshot of what we're looking to focus on this year. Today being the first one. Thanks for joining. Next, we'll be focused on priorities in the 2024 election. So in April, we'll be sharing the voter issue guide that I was talking about. And mid-April, we will talk about it, go through the issues, and share the final document. Then we'll start shifting into training for voter registration with their partners when we all vote. And this summer, we'll start to shift a little bit broader on how to engage in election research, how to utilize some of the voter education tools that we have. And my favorite is leveraging traditional and social media for voter education. So we'll get into that later in the summer. But this entire series is focused on supporting AAUW members, leaders, members, advocates to be leaders in their communities. We want to give you the tools to, engage and motivate folks this election year in your own communities, and meet you where you are, but provide some new skills and tools to help you take that next step as community leaders. So in this, there are different ways that you can engage. We do encourage you to partner with like-minded organizations. If you're hosting a forum with candidates or an issue forum or doing a registration drive, if you reach out to other organizations in your area, you can build more power and really make a bigger impact to build energy and momentum in your communities and building more well-informed and a greater voter turnout this fall. Now, that said, on what a calendar looks like, if you go to the next slide, there are some key dates in addition to our trainings that the election year focuses on. So starting with July 31st, which is 100 days till Election Day, it's coming up fast, Megan. I can't believe it's already March. And that kind of kicks off later in the summer and early fall. There's a series of what are called civic holidays. So it starts with National Voter Registration Day, which is September 17th. That goes into National Voter Education Week. And then over to National Vote Early Day and Election Day itself. These are different core dates that all organizations focused on voter engagement broadly, voter registration and education, will mobilize and activate their bases, and we want you to join us. So this is not just social media. You can plan events around those days and utilize all the tools that we'll be providing throughout the year. But put a little save the date on these dates. And go to the next slide. Megan, if you want to share some thoughts about how folks can engage with us. Oh, you're on mute.
I'm just gonna say no voice and on mute. That doesn't help. we want to continue to engage you, that we want to help you in your communities. And that really means, how can we partner with you as the national office with your states and branches around the country? And this, as Robin mentioned, we have a capacity building series. We're also going to be doing some deep dive webinars, and we want to lift up what you're doing as well, because there's so many really good examples of what's happening. I think we're all very keen to see what's happening across the country. We see ballot measures that we know many of our states are very concerned about. And this is where we want to make sure that this is a partnership, not only between national and your states and branches, but also between AUW National and some of our like-minded partner organizations. I want to highlight a question that was put in the chat about the Equal Rights Amendment. This is a really good example of an issue that, if it does not move forward through Congress or with presidential action prior to November, we should be also working to make this an election issue this year. There's a lot of good polling that says that the ERA, when we talk about it in the combination of reproductive rights, is very motivating for a variety of generations and for people across the political spectrum. This is also an example of where Gloria and I had an opportunity to sit around the table last week with our colleagues from the League of Women Voters and National Organization for Women and the ERA Coalition. And we talked about how we at the national level can start to have this conversation where we are working very closely on this issue, and we'll share that information with you in the states so that we can collectively have a bigger impact. When I say that, I do want to put out a reminder, and we will talk about this. This will be part of our work throughout the year. Our responsibility to you is to share reminders about how to stay on the right side of things. We, as a nonpartisan organization, can be emphatic about our issues. We will not, as a nonpartisan organization, be in any way, shape or form, be endorsing candidates. And I just want to make that clear. Unfortunately, there are times where some people may say, I feel like it looks like you're doing that, but we're not. What we will be doing is we will be highlighting voting records and letting people know where we stand on the issues, where you stand on the issues in your community, and sharing that information with people so they can be informed and make their own decision. And we feel strongly that everybody should get out and vote, regardless of their political affiliation and regardless of what you think about their political affiliation. There's a lot of right ways to do this, and there's a lot of things that we can do in that space. So wanted to share, we will have a lot of detailed information about not getting into any trouble with 501c3, 501c4 guidelines in terms of tax statuses and electioneering work. But there's a lot we can do. There's a lot we've been able to do collectively. But I will say, this is one where AAUW National cannot do this without our members. We can't do this without all of you in the states from around the country, all of your branches, all of our national members, all of our college and university partners, all of our student members. Because we need more people to vote. We need more people to understand what issues are at play. And our goal this year with It's My Vote is to help you increase your capacity locally to do that. It really does take person-to-person effort to really get folks to be out and vote. So we're here to support your work in the communities. Robin, did you have any last thoughts? And again, I wanted to Robin did mention, sorry, as I said that, we did want to thank the Mooney Lychee Giving Circle because they've generously supported the work and moving this forward. So we're very thankful that we're able to do more this year because of that gift. And it is always very much appreciated. But Robin, I will give you the last word. Robin's doing yeoman's job on all of this so far.
Absolutely. So I do want to remind folks, if you have any questions, to drop it in the Q&A function at the bottom of the screen. We have a few questions that have been coming through, but want to make sure that everyone knows that. Like Megan started with the ERA question, there seems to be a common thread with a few different questions using a different topic, but each of them a different topic. But the common thread of what can we do, what can AUW do for women and girls? And since this is a webinar specifically about the election and voter engagement, so how do we engage in advancing gender equity in an election year and with voter engagement? And I'll kick it off with what my favorite activity and thing to talk about when engaging with this, like the voter engagement space broadly, is urging folks to ask questions of candidates. Using our voter issue guide and the other materials that we provide and all the work that AUW does and all of the passion that we have for the ERA, for everything that we engage in AUW, asking those questions of candidates and getting candidates on the record on what their stance is or lack thereof is one of the best things that you can do in an election year. We know that there are so many issues out there that folks do want to talk about, and not everyone has had the chance to go on record about it yet. But I personally think that issues like, equal pay is kind of asking for some very, very first step building blocks. And all candidates should be on the record if they are going to work to advance equal pay for women and everyone in this country. So asking those questions, I think, is the best thing that you can, or one of the best things that you can do. But we'd love to pose that question. What do each of you, what's your favorite thing to urge folks to engage in? Gloria, do you have a thought?
Well,
Or Megan?
I think that, people have to understand the power that we have and the ways in which you can use them in your communities, and getting people on the record, getting people to admit, publicly, what their stance is, because, it gives that valuable information that allows those who aren't out there asking those questions, they can then know, because very often people are making decisions and they actually don't have the full information about the issue or the full information about the candidate. So I would definitely second, making sure that we are providing the resources so that you can be informed to actually ask the right questions.
Absolutely.
One of the things that I mentioned, though, is this. I hope everybody on the call today sees this as an invitation. We're inviting you to join us because we cannot do this without you. We are inviting you to step up and say, there are hard conversations in my community, but let's have an issue forum. Let's talk about them. There are groups that we haven't gotten to work together, but I know they're interested in getting out the vote as well. Let's reach out and work with them. Let's volunteer together at other nonpartisan organizations that are doing phone banking or postcard efforts. We can't do that at national. We can give you the tools and resources to feel confident in making those plans, knowing who to reach out to, and feeling good about how to recruit. We are going to give you resources in terms of logos, social media graphics, how-to guides. We're not springing all of this on you all at once, but we are going to have this throughout the year. As Robin mentioned, the capacity building series will have additional resources. more to come on, a lot more to come on the website. But we wanted to let you know, especially the day after Super Tuesday, that we are in it. We are here, we are in it, but we cannot do it without you. We need you with us. We need people to step out of their comfort zone. We need people to talk about politics in a challenging year. We need all of us together if we're going to make a difference. So this is not only an invitation, but this is our plea to please work with us, join us, so that we can make a difference.
Absolutely. There are a flurry of questions that just came in, so I'm trying to dig through them. You know what? Someone asked, can you give an example of an issue forum? That's a great question. Thank you for asking. Megan, you want to talk about what that is?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, an issue forum, quite frankly, is something that many of you are already doing on a different scale. Quite frankly, anytime you have a branch meeting and you've brought in an invited speaker, or you've had a panel to talk about something and have a deeper dive on it, in a sense, that's an issue forum. When we're talking about it in the context of the election, we are asking, let's stretch ourselves. Who else needs to hear this? Who is not in the same rooms as us right now? For example, if we're talking about pay equity, I know this is something that many folks around the country are doing already. Are there a couple of different speakers? Maybe somebody from the government, maybe somebody like who's working on this, maybe a corporate partner, maybe a professor in your area. Have the conversation. Why is this an issue in your community? What is the impact that is happening where you are? What are the policies that are going to move this forward? I can say that about pay equity. I can say that about the Equal Rights Amendment. I can say that about reproductive healthcare access. There's a variety of issues. There's several issues that we will be focused on in terms of not only giving you information, but questions to ask. If you have an opportunity for somebody to speak with somebody who's running for office, we'll give you questions. Ask them. Think about some of these things. Ask these questions of one another. But an issue forum, quite frankly, it's something that naturally we're doing. But let's do it in a way that we're inviting a lot of members from the community so that we're really increasing awareness of the impact of policy decisions on these issues that we care about.
Absolutely. Like I was saying, that asking questions of candidates is really important to get them on the record, but an issue forum is the step before that. It's providing as much information to your community to support well-informed voters so that the voters know what questions to ask on their own. So it's not all on you. So, you know, each one teach one. If you host the issue forum and you and other organizations offer really critical information to voters in your area on these core issues, they then will know and talk to their friends, and it continues to build from there. So both of those are two sides of the same coin and really, really important tactics to engage in. We have a few other questions on more, I'd say, like the nitty-gritty side of what we'll engage in this year. Like Megan said, we will provide so much more information as we go. It is scheduled out intentionally as well, to build skills and information from registration and some of the basics, and continue to add those building blocks together as they're needed throughout the calendar year. But we do have a few questions on information that is provided on the Action Fund website. The voter or the congressional voting record that I mentioned, we have all of the past editions of that listed there. Like Megan said, we'll also provide graphics and social media content suggestions and talking points and more information. There are a lot of questions coming through on specific topics. With that, since this is focused on voter engagement, I just want to guide folks to AAUW.org, but particularly go take a look at the 2-Minute Activist page, where we list a lot of our core issues and bills that we're engaged on right now on a national level. And a lot of our Where We Stand pages include information on these issues that all of you, it's really encouraging and wonderful to see the passionate comments come in on the issues that everyone cares about. So thank you for engaging in that. Are there questions that are popping out to you?
Well, I also just want to let people know that we definitely will be doing a lot of issue webinars, but I can guarantee there's something that you care about that we're not going to get to in depth this year. We are going to be guided. We are completely guided by the public policy principles that are voter affirmed every 2 years. And usually it's always the year after the election that we actually go through the process of updating our public policy priorities. So those have been affirmed. If it's not in the priorities, we're not going to be including it in our issues. However, the trainings and the capacity building pieces are things that you can adapt to anything. So if there is a local issue, we're going to give you the tools and resources to say, here's good groups to reach out to. Here's practical considerations when putting together an issue forum. Here's practical considerations about doing voter registration work. And here's how to stay out of trouble in terms of these rules. You'll be able to apply those to a lot of issues, but know that we will continue to stick to the core issues that you'll hear AAUW National talking about, are the core of our public policy principles, which is education, economic security for women, and civil rights. So that's where you'll see us fall there.
I've also seen a common thread within the questions of how folks will receive this information. Other questions on which organizations out there are great to partner with. And with that, I give a twofold answer. One, all of this information is going to be available to all members. This will be on our website. We are trying to offer information to as many passionate people who want to get involved and accept our invitation to join us as possible. So there's no, it's not only going to be out in emails or in like the member portal, but the other side of my answer here is I do highly recommend folks reach out to their state public policy chairs, state presidents, folks who are organizing your state and branches. But if you have questions about which organizations in your city or town to engage with, your state public policy chair might already be engaged with them on another event, so they can help introduce you to people or brainstorm ideas on who to approach. So with this, we want everyone to be empowered to be leaders in their communities. Being a leader means joining with other people and building collective power. So go talk to each other, especially within the AAUW family.
And Robin, I see there's a question around young voters, getting information out to them. And I just want to elevate Nick Whistle, our National Conference for College Women Student Leaders. We're expecting about 500 participants from across the country at Nick Whistle, and we will make a special effort to ensure that as part of Nick Whistle, we are connecting with and providing resources for the attendees so that they understand the importance and the value that they have in the voting space this year. And in addition, we have about 450 college and university partners who can also benefit, by receiving AAUW's materials, knowing how to access them, and sharing them with the students on their campuses as well.
Absolutely. And when engaging with communities like that, especially around voter registration, which that question was absolutely initially focused on, that's one of the reasons why we're excited to partner with When We All Vote. They have an incredible infrastructure already with engaging with campuses. They also have a program called My School Votes that supports first-time voters in high schools and folks who are not voters yet, but to inspire that civic engagement in high schools, as well as countless other communities around the country. But those are two of their focuses, and we're really excited to work with them.
And I know that this has been asked and mentioned a couple of times. All of this is going to be available to all members. So you don't have to go through anybody, but please do see your public policy chairs as a resource, see Robin and I as a resource. We will be sharing more information in terms of the calendar of events, the links to sign up to the capacity building trainings. And as we have the new resources, we will be both updating the website, sharing that on social media, sending that out via email. Basically, if we're working on it, we want it in your hands. It is better in your hands in the community than it is just sitting on a desk. So we're going to do everything that we can to make sure that you've got the materials so that you as AAUW in your community can be a trusted resource on these issues in your community.
And my favorite question to receive in response to any of the emails we send out is someone asking, can I share this with some other members? Can I share this with my state president or the rest of my branch? I'm like, you could share it with your family. Like, you share it with everyone. This is open information. We want all of this information in as many voters' hands, as many community members' hands as possible.
So we want to be mindful. Today is our celebration, our kickoff. As Rob mentioned, there are several questions that have come in. We will definitely be answering all the questions. We'll be following up with you, especially for everybody on this call. We've got a double-sided page that goes through all the information that was on the slides so that you can share that with your members in your branches as a jumping off point. We'll make sure that everybody has the website for the Action Fund. Drop that into the chat. And so that you will have the resources. We're making a lot of updates. So the tricky thing about a website, we've got all the materials we will be working on. When we talk about voter guides, when we talk about congressional voting records, we will be doing some of these materials over the summer and during the fall, as Robin mentioned, because, for example, we can't do a congressional voting record until Congress is closer to the end of its session.
We're a little tied down on that one, yeah.
Yeah, so we can't do that one early. But even with a head-to-head voter guide, we just saw a handful of states just yesterday determine who their candidates will be. So several states don't actually have their primaries until much later in the summer, much later in the spring, some as late as the summer. So we will be doing the national office will be putting together several head-to-head voter guides on specific races that are considered particularly competitive. We will also be doing a training, as Robin mentioned. One of our trainings is how to do this so that you could do this at the local level, you could do this with other races, and how to really analyze that political information. So some of that information, when you go to the website today, you are going to see 2022 information. And that's because some of this will not be updated until later in the year. But we wanted to share with you our excitement that it is coming. We are fully in on this, and we're excited that you're here with us on this.
Well, with that, we are at 7:40, and we can keep talking about this all night. But we're really thrilled at how many of you joined us today and to launch the campaign for this year and ask so many great questions. We really look forward to keeping this energy and passion going throughout the year. But does either of you have any final thoughts to share with folks?
I would just like to thank everyone for participating. I want to thank you and Megan for the great work that you are doing, and Kalina as well on the team, because AAUW's policy team may be small, but you guys are mighty. And when it's connected to the power of our members, we can truly have an impact. This is a pivotal year, and everyone should be aware of it and know that the resources are coming down the pike so that we can truly have an impact on so many of the issues that are paramount for women and girls' equity. So thank you all for being on the webinar, and we look forward to our ongoing communication.
There's nothing that I can add to that. But again, thank you for joining us and thank you for being with us today.
Yep. Thank you, everyone. Have a great night.